Alright, realism. It is a fascinating subject because realism and reality are not the same and it causes a lot of confusion. Now, I'm going to talk about realism in terms of D&D, mostly because of personal experiences and also because that's what I understand. So, realism. Let's talk about it. Why is realism and reality not the same thing? To put it quite bluntly, from the perspective of the characters inside the story or the universe that you're basing it from, reality is not the same as our reality. If I were to ask your D&D character and you whether dragons are real or not, you would say no, because dragons are not real in our world, but your D&D character would say yes, dragons are very much real. And that's where reality and realism differ. Realism is how reality affects the world. So how should realism be implemented in D&D? First of all, forget what's real and start thinking about realism. What is real in their world? Many arguments regarding realism in D&D fall down along the lines of, well, you can't really do that in real life. Let's take for example the carrying capacity of fighters. Many people will argue that you shouldn't be able to carry around more than a couple dozen weapons, or maybe even 2 or 3, because your character can't carry more. You couldn't carry more than that yourself, could you? But here's the thing, your character is not you. And considering the realism and the reality of D&D, it's very much possible that you could have a couple dozen weapons on you. If you have the strength score to do it, why not? Let's not forget, even if you're playing a human, most humans don't actually have a strength score of 15. Even in real life, even if we were to rank real humans with scores, I doubt even the strongest person could get a 20 score in strength. Why? Because that's not real. You cannot do that in our reality. But in D&D, that does exist. The stat scores are quantifiable. That's their reality. So why is it impossible for a person to carry more than 1 dozen weapons? Maybe because of space? Well, we have magic, so there's that. And it does manifest itself in other ways. For example, short rest, long rest. Many people argue that it's not realistic for these lengths to be 1 hour and 8 hours respectively. But why? Mostly because people in our world don't get magically better in 8 hours. And there are many other reasons to consider reality in our world. For example, every part of world building. If you think about real life and you actually go into it, a lot of the villages never really had walls. It didn't make sense for villages to have walls. But a D&D village? I mean, just in the neighborhood there could be goblins, kobold, orc, whatever else. It might not be something that we did for real. We didn't build walls around every village. But in D&D, it is a fully logical choice. It is realism at its greatest. Taking a reality of another world and turning it into real for the people living in that world. Clearly, in our world, it doesn't make sense for any medieval society to have an anti-air gun. I mean, the concept of an anti-air gun really didn't exist until we had airplanes. But let's take D&D for a moment. You know how I said that if you were to ask your character whether dragons are real or not, well, you might say no, your character will definitely say yes. Well, so will every other creature in your universe. Dragons are real. And if you need to protect yourself against dragons who are in the sky, you're gonna need a weapon to do that. Humanity's greatest invention came from the fact that, well, we don't yet have it, but we need it. That's the same with every other civilization. If you don't have it, but you need it, make it. You have opposable thumbs for a reason. So because people will need to defend themselves against flying creatures, and creatures that are bigger than any creature in our world, it only makes sense that they would actually have the means to do so. So, guns in the medieval ages? Seems pretty realistic to me.